Well, meet the man behind the Dropbox, Pastor Lee Jong-rak of Korea, and the filmmaker who brought the story to North America, Brian Ivie. Gentlemen, welcome both of you to Context.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Pastor Lee, this story began with you and the birth of Unman. He's now 29 years old. He has cerebral palsy. It turned your world upside down at first, did it not? It devastated you.
He was born with a deformity on his face, and as soon as I saw him, I was blaming God. I prayed to you for this baby, but how could you give me this kind of baby?
Well, it is Unman that has brought us to talk today. All the way you from South Korea, Brian from Los Angeles. Pastor, this encounter that you've had with your own severely disabled child led you to the idea of rescuing other babies like him that were not expected. And you created the Dropbox. How did that idea come to you?
At 3 a.m., I got a call from somebody. My wife answered the call, and she felt it was strange because he didn't say anything but in front of the door, and he sighed. And we thought, okay, something's up, and we ran out to the door, and there was a baby inside a cardboard box. And it was a cardboard box that was used to contain fish before, and there was a baby inside. So we picked the baby up, and we embraced him. I could sense that the baby was suffering from hypothermia. I was really fearful of the fact that the baby could have died in front of our very own door. That was the beginning of the discussion.
And the baby box is a discussion that has now reverberated around the world. Brian, it landed in your film class in Los Angeles. What did you encounter when you got to Pastor Jung in South Korea? What started to happen in your psyche as you found yourself in this orphanage of unwanted babies?
Well, I became a Christian while making this film. And
okay, what spiritual condition were you in as you were just a normal, typical filmmaker? Describe us to that.
Well, I think for me, I'm from the States, so most people think they're Christians because they don't smoke cigarettes and they watch Fox News, So I think Christianity for me was kind of a label. It was just decorative, It was just something I did because I wasn't a Muslim or a Jew. I was a Christian, and so it was something I wore like a Christmas sweater. And even when I went to go make this movie with him, who was just a photograph for a long time until we arrived there, I bought a cross necklace on Amazon for $8 because I wanted to communicate with him in some way and show him that, hey, I'm on your side, I get it, I know why you do what you do. But I really didn't know. And we've all heard about the cross, probably at church or maybe in the movies, but at some point the cross can't be something you buy on Amazon for $8. It has to be what bought you. And I wanted to know where all the love came from that made this man do what he did. And I found out.
Wow. Yeah. What did you tell him, Pastor? What did you tell this poser with the $8 cross where this love came from?
At first, he came with a wooden cross around his neck, so I thought he was a Christian. But as I was living with him more, I realized that his spiritual condition was rather obscure, and I prayed for him more and more. God, this young man that you love so much, you have sent him all the way to Korea. Would you please work within and through him? And would you please use this documentary because you have started this? Would you please accomplish your will through this? And I was praying like that. I observed him, but more and more I could see changes in his eyes. He was praying, and he was praying when we were having services, and it was just so obvious that he was becoming more and more genuine. And I could see that the direction of the documentary was going towards a direction that Brian didn't intend before, but it was obvious he was being obedient, more obedient to God.
Brian, you encountered a holy man of God who deeply knew what it was to walk with God in sacrifice, in suffering, and in incredible love. What changed then about your attitude toward God for yourself?
Well, he's living proof of a loving God. A lot of people categorize sin as kind of like, okay, you have drugs and alcohol and Hitler and, you know, this is a sin, right? But the sin underneath every sin is pride. It says, I don't need to be saved. I'm okay. I'm good enough, and I'll climb my own ladder. And I think when I met these kids in their brokenness, it showed me that I had this pity for them at first, but ultimately I found a kinship with them. A lot of them have disabilities and deformities, and I realized I had a lot in my own heart, and they weren't visible, but I had addictions to pornography. I was in a really abusive relationship. I was really broken, and eventually I found myself the same as those kids on the floor where I was sleeping with them. And I think the Dropbox to me symbolized where we all belong, a place where we say, God, I give up, I need you. As far as living forever, we're all as helpless as any of these kids, and I need to be saved and rescued. And his story is the story of a man, him, as well as me, were both rescued in order to become rescuers. We weren't natural born heroes or anything like that. The good work didn't begin with us, it began with God. And now we do it because we love him and want to serve him well.
Pastor, not everybody has been as complimentary. There's actually been an international controversy over should babies be rescued in boxes. I want us to play a little clip of Brian's movie that gives voice to the questions that you and your project have started.
We consider that baby boxes are dangerous because they don't uphold children's rights or parental rights. And it will be, I think, over time, seen as an ancient practice that is unacceptable and not really a part of the 21st century.
In Lancaster County, a teenager was arrested after police say she delivered her premature baby in her high school's bathroom and threw it in the trash can.
Later responded to a call, baby not breathing, and I found a young baby wrapped up in a plastic bag inside of a building in Albertson.
In August, a baby girl was spotted in a river in Fuzhou. She had drowned. Police say she had undergone an operation, and they suspect she was given up by her parents. A newborn was found dead in a dust heap in Nanjing with his umbilical cord still.
Pastor Lee, how do you respond to the criticism that if we create places, orphanages like yours, it will only encourage more people to abandon their babies? It's not stopping the problem at the right place.
그건 말이 안 됩니다.
That we aggravate abandonment does not make sense to begin with. When we first made the box, it was for those babies that were going to be abandoned. But if you had to abandon, give up your baby, this was the place to do it. When we first made it, human beings are not trash. They're not garbage. They're not to be thrown away. They're not to be abandoned. They have the right to be happy. They have the right to live. It is a box that was designed to save and rescue those lives.
And why do you think we in North America, this documentary is going to be opening in theaters, why do we need to hear this story?
이런 베이비 박스가 많이 있습니다.
Life is so precious, and there are such baby boxes everywhere globally. As far as to my knowledge, there are 19 nations who operate something like this. I can't just walk by someone who is drowning. And it's amazing that people are being touched because it is something that God has done.
Pastor Lee, you have told us a very big story about living a life of love. It's changed Brian's life by being with you. I was changed as I watched how you loved Unman and your wife and your babies and the volunteers who come to help you. Thank you for being a radical follower of Jesus. Pastor Lee Jong-rak, the pastor behind the Dropbox, Rescuing Orphans, and Brian Ivie, the documentary filmmaker who captured the story, with us at Context. Thank you.